Welcome back to our channel, and to another fascinating journey through the Bible's hidden mysteries. Today, we're diving into a question that has sparked debates among scholars, theologians, and Bible readers for centuries. Did Moses, the great leader of Israel, have one wife or two? Was his only wife the well-known Zipporah, or did he also marry a mysterious Cushite woman, as the scriptures suggest? The answer is more complex than you might think, and it might just change how you see one of the Bible's greatest heroes. This captivating story involves dramatic encounters, bold decisions, and cultural tensions that reveal much about the world of Moses. Today, we'll explore ancient passages, unravel hidden clues, and delve deep into the cultural and historical context that shaped these relationships. Stick around to discover why this debate matters and how it highlights the Bible's message of God working through diverse people and unexpected circumstances. But we won't just be skimming the surface. We're going deeper, examining every detail, from Moses' dramatic encounter at the well to the mysterious Cushite woman who stirred up family conflict. Whether you're a seasoned Bible reader or new to these stories, you'll gain insights that you won't find anywhere else. So, if you're ready to unravel this biblical mystery with us, hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to ring the notification bell so you never miss an episode. We love hearing your thoughts, so drop a comment below and let us know your take on this ancient debate. And if you find this video valuable, share it with your friends and family to spread the word. Your support helps us continue bringing these stories to life. Let's dive into the incredible story of Moses, Zipporah, and the Cushite woman right now. Our story of Moses' marriage begins in the book of Exodus. Moses, a Hebrew raised in the Egyptian royal court, fled from Egypt after killing an Egyptian who was beating a Hebrew slave. He journeyed into the land of Midian, a region inhabited by descendants of Abraham through his son Midian. It was here that Moses encountered Jethro, also known as Roel, the priest of Midian. Exodus chapter 2 verses 16 to 17 describes how Moses, exhausted from his journey, sat by a well. The Bible tells us, "Now a priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came to draw water and fill the troughs to water their father's flock. Some shepherds came along and drove them away, but Moses got up and came to their rescue and watered their flock." This encounter is significant as it highlights Moses' character even in a foreign land, his sense of justice and his protective nature. By defending Jethro's daughters, Moses not only made a strong first impression, but also opened the door to his future with Zipporah. The daughters of Jethro returned home earlier than usual, surprising their father. When Jethro asked them why, they recounted how an Egyptian man rescued them from the shepherds and even drew water for their flock. Jethro, recognizing this as a noble act, invited Moses to stay with them, as we read in Exodus chapter 2 verses 18 to 20. When the girls returned to rule their father, he asked them, "Why have you returned so early today?" They answered, "An Egyptian rescued us from the shepherds. He even drew water for us and watered the flock." "And where is he?" Roel asked his daughters. "Why did you leave him?" "Invite him to have something to eat." Moses accepted Jethro's hospitality, and this began a new chapter in his life. According to Exodus chapter 2 verses 21 to 22, Moses was content to dwell with Jethro, and eventually, Jethro gave his daughter Zipporah to Moses in marriage. The scripture tells us, Moses agreed to stay with the man who gave his daughter Zipporah to Moses in marriage. Zipporah gave birth to a son, and Moses named him Gershom, saying, "I have become a foreigner in a foreign land." The name Gershom reflects Moses' feelings of being an outsider in Midian, yet it also marks the beginning of Moses' family life and a period of peace before God called him to lead the Israelites out of Egypt. Zipporah's role as Moses' wife is pivotal, showing her as a supportive partner in his journey. Interestingly, Moses' time in Midian and his marriage to Zipporah were part of God's preparation for Moses' greater mission. Midian was not just a place of refuge, but also where Moses learned to shepherd, a skill he would later use to lead the people of Israel. Zipporah's presence in Moses' life was more than just as a wife. She played a crucial role in moments that defined his journey. One of the most dramatic and mysterious events involving Zipporah occurs in Exodus chapter 4 verses 24 to 26, a passage that highlights her protective instincts and quick thinking. In this passage, as Moses was on his way back to Egypt to fulfill God's command to free the Israelites, something unexpected happened. The Bible tells us that at a lodging place along the journey, the Lord met Moses and was about to kill him. This moment is shocking and puzzling, as it comes right after God had called Moses to lead his people out of slavery. But the reason becomes clear. Moses had not circumcised his son, a key sign of the covenant between God and Abraham's descendants, as described in Genesis chapter 17 verses 10 to 14. "This is my covenant with you, and your descendants after you, the covenant you are to keep. Every male among you shall be circumcised. Any uncircumcised male who has not been circumcised in the flesh will be cut off from his people. He has broken my covenant." The lack of circumcision was seen as a serious breach of God's command, which threatened Moses' mission. Zipporah, understanding the gravity of the situation, acted swiftly to save her husband. The scripture in Exodus chapter 4 verses 24 to 26 captures this intense moment. At a lodging place on the way, the Lord met Moses and was about to kill him. But Zipporah took a flint knife, cut off her son's foreskin, and touched Moses' feet with it. "Surely you are a bridegroom of blood to me," she said. So the Lord let him alone. Zipporah's actions not only saved Moses' life, but also reaffirmed the importance of obedience to God's covenant. Her words, "Surely you are a bridegroom of blood to me," reflect a complex mixture of frustration, urgency, and the bond that tied them together. This event underscores Zipporah's role as more than a passive spouse. She was an active participant in Moses' mission. Some scholars suggest that Zipporah's quick thinking demonstrates her familiarity with the covenant and her commitment to protect Moses, even when it required her to act in a way that was unconventional and bold for the time. This moment also highlights the partnership between Moses and Zipporah, showing that she played a critical role in his life and mission. This incident is not only a testament to Zipporah's bravery, but also a reflection of the complex dynamics within their marriage. Moses' leadership journey was fraught with challenges, and Zipporah's presence during this critical moment speaks volumes about her courage and support. Interestingly, after this event, we see that Zipporah and her sons were later sent back to Jethro, as mentioned in Exodus chapter 18 verse 2. This suggests a temporary separation, during which Moses focused on leading the Israelites out of Egypt. However, Jethro later brought Zipporah and her sons back to Moses, showing that she continued to be an important part of his life and family. Now, let's come to the controversial Cushite or Ethiopian wife. The debate about whether Moses had a second wife begins with a striking passage in the book of Numbers. In Numbers chapter 12 verse 1, we read about an episode where Moses' siblings, Miriam and Aaron, openly criticize him. The scripture says, "Miriam and Aaron began to talk against Moses because of his Cushite wife, for he had married a Cushite." This seemingly simple verse has sparked a great deal of debate and speculation among readers and scholars. The question is, who is this Cushite wife? Is she a second distinct wife, or could this reference still point to Zipporah? The term Kushite refers to someone from Cush, a region often associated with territories south of Egypt, generally believed to correspond to modern-day Sudan or Ethiopia. This connection is supported by several biblical references that associate Cush with lands in Africa. One perspective is that Moses took a second wife from Cush, possibly after Zipporah. This theory is rooted in the specificity of the term Cushite, which seems to denote a distinct geographical origin from Zipporah's Midianite background. The Cushites were known for their dark complexion, and the association with Ethiopia or Sudan emphasizes this distinctiveness. In Jeremiah chapter 13 verse 23 states that, "Can an Ethiopian change his skin or a leopard its spots?" Jeremiah chapter 13 verse 23, for instance, uses the term Ethiopian, translated from the Hebrew word for Cushite, to describe a person with a distinct, recognizable appearance. This further supports the idea that the Cushite woman mentioned in Numbers chapter 12 verse 1 is likely of African descent, distinguishing her from Zipporah. However, not everyone agrees that this Cushite woman is a separate individual. Some argue that the reference to a Cushite wife could still be about Zipporah, describing her not by her nationality but perhaps highlighting her appearance. or as a general term for a foreigner. In ancient times, Midianites and Cushites were both considered non-Israelite peoples, often grouped together or described similarly by Israelites due to their foreign status. This could explain why Zipporah, a Midianite, might be described as a Cushite, emphasizing her non-Israelite heritage rather than specifically identifying her as a person from Cush. In Habakkuk chapter 3 verse 7 says, "I saw the tents of Cushan in distress, the dwellings of Midian in anguish." Habakkuk chapter 3 verse 7 interestingly mentions both Cushan and Midian in a poetic parallel, suggesting that these groups were closely associated, at least in some contexts. This verse provides a potential link between the two identities, though it does not definitively resolve the question of Moses' wife. The heart of this passage, however, is not just about Moses' marital status. Miriam and Aaron's criticism reveals deeper issues of authority and jealousy. Numbers chapter 12 verse 2 continues, "Has the Lord spoken only through Moses?" they asked. "Hasn't he also spoken through us?" And the Lord heard this. The focus quickly shifts from Moses' wife to an underlying challenge to Moses' leadership and his unique relationship with God. God's response is swift and severe. Numbers chapter 12 verse 9 to 10 tells us, "The anger of the Lord burned against them, and he left them. When the cloud lifted from above the tent, Miriam's skin was leprous, it became as white as snow." God's punishment of Miriam, striking her with leprosy, underscores the seriousness of their complaint. It also serves as a divine vindication of Moses, regardless of the specifics surrounding his marital situation. This incident highlights that God's approval of Moses as his chosen leader was not to be questioned. Moses, showing his compassionate nature, immediately intercedes for Miriam, asking God to heal her, which is granted after 7 days. This outcome reinforces the sanctity of Moses' leadership and the importance of humility and obedience before God. Whether the Cushite woman was a distinct second wife or a reference to Zipporah, this passage reveals much more about family dynamics, leadership, and God's expectations. It reminds us of the complexities inherent in biblical texts and the ways in which these ancient stories still speak to us today. Now we come to the question of whether Moses had one or two wives revolves around interpreting the brief but significant mention of the Cushite woman in Numbers chapter 12 verse 1. Scholars and readers often split into two main camps, each offering different insights into Moses' marital situation. Let's explore these two perspectives. View 1. Moses had one wife, Zipporah. The first view argues that the reference to the Cushite woman still points to Zipporah, Moses' known wife. According to this interpretation, the term Cushite may have been used to describe her non-Israelite origin, emphasizing her foreignness or possibly her unique appearance. This aligns with the idea that Cushite could have been a broad term describing people from outside Israel's immediate cultural boundaries. Historically, the regions of Midian and Cush were known for their diverse populations and complex interactions. Midian, where Zipporah was from, was located east of the Red Sea, while Cush was situated further south, typically associated with regions near present-day Sudan or Ethiopia. The cultures of these regions were known to overlap through trade, intermarriage, and shared ancestry, as seen in other biblical references. As stated in Habakkuk chapter 3 verse 7, "I saw the tents of Cushan in distress, the dwellings of Midian in anguish." This verse from Habakkuk poetically pairs Cushan and Midian, hinting at their close association, which may support the idea that people from Midian could be described as Cushite in a broader cultural sense. Those who support this view often point out that describing Zipporah as Cushite could reflect her appearance or the perception of her as an exotic foreigner, emphasizing her difference from the Israelites. This interpretation sees the criticism from Miriam and Aaron as not merely about Moses' marital choices, but as a critique of his leadership and his close connections with non-Israelites. Furthermore, there are no other explicit biblical references suggesting that Moses married again after Zipporah, lending weight to the argument that the Cushite wife and Zipporah could be one and the same. Now let's explore to view 2. Moses had two wives, Zipporah and a Cushite woman. The second view posits that the Cushite woman mentioned in Numbers, chapter 12, verse 1, was a distinct individual separate from Zipporah. This interpretation suggests that Moses might have married a Cushite woman later in his life, possibly after Zipporah's death or during a period of separation. Numbers, chapter 12, verse 1 states, Miriam and Aaron began to talk against Moses because of his Cushite wife, for he had married a Cushite. Supporters of this view argue that the explicit mention of the Cushite woman in Numbers, chapter 12, verse 1, without connecting her directly to Zipporah, indicates that this was a separate marriage. In the ancient world, multiple marriages were not uncommon, especially among leaders, and Moses' life, though unique, was not exempt from cultural norms. This interpretation highlights the distinctiveness of the Cushite woman's identity, suggesting she was from a land known for its unique cultural and physical attributes. The Cushites, often depicted as warriors and skilled archers, were respected and recognized in the ancient world, including by the Israelites. In Isaiah, chapter 18, verses 1-2 says, Woe to the land of whirring wings along the rivers of Cush, which sends envoys by sea in papyrus boats over the water. Isaiah, chapter 18, verses 1-2, references Cush as a significant and distant land known for its strong cultural identity. This portrayal supports the idea that the mention of a Cushite wife highlights someone distinct from the familiar figure of Zipporah, emphasizing Moses' broader connections beyond his immediate family circle. However, it's important to note that there is no explicit biblical narrative detailing a second marriage for Moses. This interpretation, while supported by some scholars, remains speculative and based on reading between the lines of ancient texts. It reflects the complexities and sometimes hidden layers of Moses' life, as shaped by his relationships and leadership. Whether Moses had one wife, Zipporah, or a second distinct Cushite wife, this debate provides a window into the challenges of interpreting ancient texts. The cultural, geographical, and familial contexts of the Bible often leave us with more questions than answers, inviting us to explore deeper into the lives of its characters. When studying ancient texts like the Bible, it's essential to understand the historical and cultural context in which these events occurred. The Bible, while divinely inspired, often provides a selective narrative, focusing on key events and themes rather than exhaustive details. This selective storytelling sometimes leaves us with ambiguities, especially when it comes to personal aspects of biblical figures like Moses. Moses lived in a time and place vastly different from our own, a world where cultural norms, political landscapes, and religious practices influenced daily life. The cultures of Egypt, Midian, and Cush were diverse and interconnected, each contributing to the broader narrative of the ancient Near East. So, why does it matter if Moses had one or two wives? At first glance, this question might seem like a minor detail, a curiosity buried in the pages of the Old Testament. However, the debate over Moses' marital situation reveals far more than just a personal aspect of his life. It highlights the complexities and challenges of biblical interpretation, showing us that the Bible is not just a straightforward historical account, but a collection of stories, laws, and teachings that must be understood within their cultural and historical contexts. The Bible often presents us with stories that require careful reading and discernment. For example, the debate over Moses' wives reminds us that understanding the Bible isn't always about reading the text at face value, but involves exploring the deeper layers of meaning, context, and history. As the Apostle Paul writes in 2 Timothy, chapter 3, verse 16, all Scripture is God-breathed and is useful for teaching, rebuking, correcting, and training in righteousness. This verse underscores the idea that every part of Scripture, even the more obscure or seemingly insignificant passages, has value. The story of Moses' marriage or marriages challenges us to seek deeper understanding and to appreciate the Bible's richness and complexity. Whether Moses had one wife, Zipporah, or a second Cushite wife, these accounts are not just about Moses' personal life, but also reflect his unique leadership role among the Israelites. Moses is one of the most prominent figures in the Bible, chosen by God to lead his people out of slavery, receive the law, and guide them toward the Promised Land. His leadership was marked by moments of great faith, courage, and also personal challenges, including those within his own family. In conclusion, so, what do you think? Was Moses married to one or two women? Does this change how you view his story? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. As always, if you found this video insightful, please like, share and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the Bible. Thank you for watching, and may God bless you.